And, with the success of the Great British Bake Off and the huge success over the last 4 or 5 years, and obviously you've had a massive career before that, were you surprised how the programme is probably now more popular than The X Factor or EastEnders?
It is. I think we had a huge viewing to beat a lot of them, but I'm delighted, shall I say I am surprised, but it is a family show. When you think about it, you get all generations sitting on the sofa, watching it at 8 o'clock, and even Dad might miss his football in order to join the family. They know that there's going to be no bad language, it's going to be educational, it's going to encourage people to bake, and people are avidly watching, and they're looking at our bakers, and they're really like maybe their next door neighbour or a friend or a granny that bakes well. And there's all different people, starting with the 12, and we even had a 17-year-old girl in the last series. I don't know who we'll have this year, we're just in the middle of selecting them, but everything just gives them an idea. Some of the things are too difficult to make at home, but some of them are very achievable. But people watch and seem to love it, and it's such fun.
Because it is a nice programme. It's not like Gordon Ramsay. There's no swearing or anger. It's easy watching, and in a way you help them bake and cook better.
It's good to watch, but it is a gentle teaching programme. Paul Hollywood and I, we are the judges, and we do not help them at all. But Mel and Sue, when they're about to burst into tears and it's gone down in the middle of their bake and something's gone on the floor and whatever, they're there to sort of say, now come on, you've got time. They'll look at their watch and say, you've got time to make it again. Let me help you gather the ingredients and so forth. It's very jolly, and also the actual bakers themselves often chat and help each other, and this is a competition, but even so they become very involved with each other because they all stay together. Paul, Mel, Sue and I are totally separate. We don't have any meals with them, we don't socialise with them, because if we did, we might, we might have a favourite. We don't have a favourite. We don't. We start off and we think, oh, maybe they'll be good and go through to the final. But usually it's quite different because they go on working at getting better.
Why do you and Paul Hollywood work so well together? The Guardian have described you as the secret weapon of the programme.
I don't really know why, but we do. We have totally different views. Paul is a great expert and one of the best bread bakers in the country, and I more specialise in cakes. I'm not very good at bread, and so we each have our own field. And but what we really want to do is to encourage Britain to bake and to get children trying to bake at home, and that's lovely for sometimes children of all different abilities. They can still bake, sometimes with the help of mum or dad or a big brother or sister. It's lovely to be able to do those things on a wet day in the school holidays. It's far better than going out to the cinema. It's stay at home and bake.
If I can ask you this, you've a big birthday coming up. Can we talk about the big birthday?
Yes,
on the 24th of March.
That's a good memory of yours, you're quite right. I was born on the 24th of March on removal day. I'm told I was awkward. Yeah.
So, this is a very, very big birthday. Can I mention
what
age? Is it okay?
Yep.
You're turning the big 80.
I am.
And you look fabulous. I would have put you down at maybe 55, 60. How do you do it? How do you still have this energy to, I suppose, fly over to Ireland and do all this globe-trotting and, publish books and be on an award-winning programme?
I'm very lucky with my genes, I think. My mother died eventually at 105, and I'm quite energetic, but I have got I have got my health, so she's stretching around for some wood under the table. I love what I do. I mean, it's a huge honour to be chosen to be a judge on the Great British Bake Off. But I still enjoy proper family cooking, and that's what my new television programme, Absolute Favourites, is all about. And in the book, I'm able to do all my family recipes with a little bit of a twist, because my absolute favourites, when they asked me to do it, they said, well, you didn't forget the cooking. What are your absolute favourite things to do? And, you know, as a child, I used to love to go prawning and also foraging for, I still do, for mushrooms and things. And so we went off doing all these things, and then I did recipes that used the ingredients.
And let's talk about your childhood and growing up in England and realising that you weren't as academic as maybe your father hoped. Tell us about that, and in school and not being the top of the class and then finding your way.
Oh, the best things at school were break and games, I can remember. Yes, I wasn't academic, but I mean, looking back, I didn't work really. And then when I was, I suppose, about 12, you changed, and they said you can do either Latin and maths or domestic science, and you can imagine what I chose. We had a new department at school with a lovely teacher called Miss Date, and I loved those lessons. And you know, you cooked things and took them home, and you know, the family said they were delicious. So wasn't I lucky?
So your father, I suppose, he came round to your success, and one of your first jobs, you were doing very, very well. Did I read that you were earning £1,000 a year?
I had was my second job actually in London. When I moved up to London, £1,000 a year. And Dad said, when I said I'd been offered the job, he said, "You, £1,000 a year? That's an awful lot of money, young lady. What are you doing?" So anyway, I enjoyed it very much, and it set me off. I was testing recipes and doing quite a lot of research, and I enjoyed it a lot.
And you love animals, you adore them, and as a child and being young, I understand you had polio, and your father at one point brought along the horse, and you could see it from the hospital window. Did that happen?
It did. I mean, I had polio, and I was in the isolation hospital in Bath, and then the orthopaedic hospital. And in the ward, it was I was with a lot of people who had TB, and you have to have, in those days, fresh air. And so I was permanently cold, I can remember. And obviously I missed my pony a lot, and Dad walked 3 miles with the pony down to the hospital, and he brought it round to where our beds were moved out onto something called solarium. It's like concrete. They used to move all the beds out during the day if it was warm, or even if it wasn't. So we got fresh air for the TB people. And my bed was put at the end, and my pony came. And I was able to chat to her, and it really helped me get better.
And you really do love animals, don't you?
I love animals, yes, and I always have. I used to, when Dad had pigs and there was a little runt in the litter, I used to creep it inside and keep it with me.
Because, you know, growing up during the Second World War and afterwards, you would keep pigs and then you'd eat the pigs.
We kept pigs, but Dad was totally unemotional about that. And they would grow to be big pigs, and then we would, they'd go to be slaughtered, and they'd be split with neighbours and so on. But it was never discussed actually at the meal that they were your own pigs. Otherwise, I think I'd have been upset.
And how important is family to you, and I suppose the family meal, which is dying out?
I don't think necessarily the family meal is dying out, because I think Bake Off has brought everybody to the sofa, and I think people are realising that to cook at home, there are so many cooking programmes, and with Absolute Favourites I've concentrated on things like the slow roast, dead easy to do, just put in the oven. If the family are late, what does it matter? But to get people around once a week to enjoy a family meal keeps a family together. And it's funny, when their tummies are full, they begin to tell you all about what they're up to. At least that's what I find. You know, ask them when they're starving and they'll say, "Oh, had a good day." and then go off and do something. But when their tummies are full, they'll tell you all what's going on, and you feel part of their life.
And to you, family is so important, and I hope you don't mind me asking about a tragedy and losing your son. Obviously, that must have been so hard.
William was killed in a car, not a car crash. He actually was driving the car too fast at the age of 19 with his sister in the car. And that was immensely sad. And it does change your life completely. I stopped working in London. I then worked from home. I was lucky enough to have, my husband and I can honestly say it brought us all very closely together, and we appreciate each other far more. And I remember Thomas's first words were, when we told him, he said, "Oh, but we had so much to do," and he felt very guilty that he hadn't been perhaps done more with his brother. Annabelle was in the car with William, and we were very lucky that she was perfectly all right. It is a huge sadness, and we were very lucky to have him. We all feel that, and we still include him in all sorts of our thoughts. And we were lucky that he was such a special little chap. And in fact, when we go at Christmas time, I remember looking at his grave, and ever since there's been a couple of bunches, if not one or two bunches of flowers from his school friends, and it's many years since he died. We all feel that I wouldn't mind if he walked through the door. I'd just cuss him and say, "Where have you been?"
So, and thank you for that. I'm going to, I suppose, ask you a little bit about what drives you, what keeps you going. Why do you keep on working?
To me, it's not work. It's something that I absolutely love doing. And if you're lucky enough to be asked to do these things, from doing writing books or doing television programs or whatever, I can choose whether I do it or whether I don't. My husband is totally happy about me doing them. I mean, here I am in Ireland at a weekend, and he was absolutely, "Oh, off you go. What time are you going to be back? I'll be here. I'll remember to feed the dog." I think I'm very lucky to be asked, and I really do enjoy it.
I want to talk to you about feminism, and also how you were a working mum before it was the norm in Ireland at one point. If you had a child, you'd have to give up your job if you worked for the state or a semi-state company. But you went back to work. You'd have a child, spend a few weeks off, and then you would go back to editing magazines and doing what you do.
I've never really thought about it, but in fact I knew that I enjoyed my work, and in those days you would leave, and with any luck you would come back. Well, I hadn't the confidence to think that anybody would want me again, so I continued with it with a stack of good friends, a husband and help. I continued, and I hadn't thought of it. It was with my husband's blessing, so I've worked all the time, and I love it.
And you've done incredibly well, and you have continued success. Innuendos. I mean, I have a list of innuendos here that have come up on the Great British Bake Off, and when we look at the newspapers, either the tabloids, that they also list them off. Are they deliberate? I have a few here. If I just turn this page here, if I can read some of them out to you. I mean, soggy bottom is an obvious one, but a taste of nuts coming through, and typically I do it on the floor because it gets so stiff. These are accidental, but why do the tabloids pick up on these innuendos?
Well, I think you should tell me why the tabloids pick it up. There's lots of giggles going on, but soggy bottoms is something that I remember saying I've always said that with the quiches, that you've got to bake them blind in order to get them a nice crisp underneath. I keep a total straight face about it, and the others will laugh. The tabloids love it, and they make a list of it. Well, if they want to, they can.
So to you, it's just a bit of crack, a bit of fun.
It's a bit of crack, bit of fun. And if you choose to have two comedians like Mel and Sue, you must expect it.
So it's a part of the programme, really.
It's part of the programme, and it's all good, clean fun.
So what piece of advice would you have for people out there who want to continue working and continue baking until they are at a ripe old age?
Well, baking, whether you're working or whether you're not, is a great relaxation. And also, isn't it nice? It's baking and cooking. If you produce a cake or you do a good meal and you bring it to the family and they say, "Oh, Mum, this is good," it's terribly rewarding to you. And I think that the more the younger generation cook with their parents, the better. But it is often because the young that are watching television, they'll come in and say, "Mum, can we make that sausage bake that Mary Berry's got in her book? Sounds delicious. Shall we do it together?" And it's not necessarily the idea of the parents. It's the young saying, "Oh, I'd like that for supper," and do it together because it's something that can be shared.
I have a confession to make. I shop in a store that kind of invented TV dinners, M&S, and I would sometimes buy packaged food. Am I lazy? Is that wrong?
Not at all. I think I do all sorts of cheats, and if I'm arriving late, having been away, I would go in and buy the £10 bargain deal, and I certainly wouldn't have the soft choice of a non-alcoholic drink. I'd have the bottle of wine. But that's a treat. It's like going out, isn't it?
So you could be seen at the M&S meal for two with the wine.
Absolutely. Why not?
Mary Berry, you've become a fashion icon. If you buy a top or a skirt, it sells out. How does that make you feel?
Well, I'm quite chuffed to bits, really. I choose things that are very cheerful for my age. I certainly don't want to have too short a skirt or show my arms. I'm very much for comfort dressing, but with a bit of fun with it. And it's got to be warm. I'm very cold. Here in Ireland, I've arrived and it's very blowy. I'm always ready to keep nice and warm. And so I didn't used to enjoy shopping so much, but it is quite fun to think on the bake-off I've got to have a different jacket, because a jacket you can put all sorts of jumpers underneath because it's cold in that tent. And for absolute favourites, I was choosing things that I was all-time cooking in the kitchen, so sort of suitable things that I was comfy in. And then, of course, I'd be out do the prawning and things, so I'd have nice warm clothes. But I enjoy clothes, but they've got to be comfortable, fun, and quite stylish.
And it's a big bad world out there. There's so many terrible things happening, and people, I suppose, come to you and come to your programmes for comfort. How do you remain so positive?
I think they do come to the programme. If you're a widow or you're living on your own, it must be rather nice to turn on a friendly cooking programme that you can share. I think one should make it something for everybody to enjoy. And I think the great success of the Great British Bake Off is that it is a very happy programme. So nobody's going to make them cry. We want to stop them crying. We want to encourage everybody to cook.
Well, Mary Berry, I'm Henry McKean, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Henry. I've enjoyed myself.